Alright, in this video we're going to go through three particular techniques of doing a embedded sphere or embedded cylinder in a inside of a wind tunnel like object. So our purpose in this is very simple. Let's say you had a wind tunnel that was much in the same way that all wind tunnels are, except you place a cylinder all the way through the wind tunnel to the other side. And so in essence what we're going to do is build a box, and we're going to slip a cylinder inside of it and subtract the two. However, in the simulation we're going to do it just straight. Then we're going to realize that we need a lot of resolution near the cylinder. So we're going to approach it three different ways. Now we probably won't finish that in this all three in this video, but we will do some of them. Here I have the new version of Sloan, and you notice that it's slightly different than before in one regard, and that is that I'm operating with the new version of Ubuntu. So I go to the grid. Now there's one problem that we'll come across when it comes to doing this in the new version of Sloan and the new version of Ubuntu, and when we reach that we'll address it rather quickly. So let's first go in and create an arbitrary wind tunnel. So we'll make it longer than it is. So we'll do a 500, 200 by 200. I'll also go in and move it. I do not want to create a copy, so what I will do is move it back, since it was 500 long, 200 and 200. That places the center right there at the center of the object. Let's now come in and do a cylinder in there. We can have the height whatever we want, but we know the distance from here to here is 200, so I'll just make it 300, and instead of it being let's say we want it to be 15. Then what I'll do is come into the cylinder. I'll slide it down in there. I don't want to create a copy, but I'll slide it down, not the X, not the Y, but the Z axis. So we'll slide it until it comes out the other side, and we're okay with that. So now if you look at it, you have a cylinder, a nail in essence driven through a block. And I will now come in and subtract the two. The main object is that, the tool object is the cylinder, and I'll call it my wind tunnel. I'll go ahead and turn everything else off, and what you see is a block with a hole in it. Now at this particular point I can call it good, and I can go down to the wind tunnel. I could do the old standard explode. I'm going to explode out the faces. It's not too many of them. I'll go ahead and do a show only. So we've got to decide which one's going to be the inlet. So here, looks like an inlet to me. So if I hit that, that'll be a wall. What is this one? Looks like a wall. What is this one? Ah, that's the cylinder. So what I'm going to do there, CYL. Oh, I need to see what that one is. Another wall. This one will be another wall. This one has to be the exit. And here's our exit. So now I have them all labeled. I can go in and say change the color of the inlet. I'm going to change the color of, say, the cylinder. And I'm going to change the color of the exit. So now you see the colors. You can zoom in there and look at the cylinder, and you can see there is your cylinder in there. It has this kind of a reddish color to it. So now I have them all split. Now the old standard is just to go in, and before I go in I'm going to do a save as, and I'm just going to call it study. It's going to say there's already one, but I'm going to put it over the top of that one. Go into the mesh. Okay, I'll create a mesh. The geometry needs to be the wind tunnel. I'm going to do NetGen. I'm going to go ahead and say, now this is slightly different than the other. Has a few more pieces of information here, like the minimum size and the maximum size. Let's say 25, and let's say 2. And we can hit that. Give it a few seconds. There should be it may take some time to compute this mesh. So I ended up with a mesh. It has quite a number of nodes and quite a number of elements in it, and you can see looks fairly clustered around the cylinder, so it probably is okay, but we might want it to be a little tighter clustered there. Let's take a look at it. Let's do a clipping on it, a new clipping, and I need to, well, this is probably an okay. So you can kind of see the elements are finer down in there, but they're probably nowhere near the fineness that we need to have for really true simulation. So let's go after method 1 of refining this. And let's take a look here. Okay, first of all, what we have is we have arguments that we've picked, and then we have local sizes. Now what I've done is I've picked the cylinder and I clicked on the subface that and the value of 1, let's say. Now that did away with the mesh. You can see over here it's no longer there. So we will need to, now one of the things we need to do is edit the hypothesis and make sure our minimum size, that's the value of that. We need to drop this down to 1 then. And we can either compute here or hit the compute up here. So we're computing away. I'll pause it, let it come back in a little bit. Now while that's running, I'm going to basically go back to the older edition, or the CAE Linux edition, and I'm going to go take this into the meshing area, and I'm going to create a mesh off of it. It's the wind tunnel. I'm basically going to pick that, go down in and pick up the parameters. This is the maximum size. It has no limit on the minimum, so we're just going to do 2, fine, I'm sorry, 25, and I'll just hit that and mesh it. One of the things I get to see over here is how the thing runs in the terminal, which I don't have in the other one. In the meantime, I can go take a look at how that one came about, and what I find: exceeds the current limit, please check the mesh module. So no automatic update of the presentation has been done. The new mesh size is 1,000,000 elements, exceeds the current limit, please check the references. So it is a very, very big mesh. And okay, let it come up. So it has 200,000 nodes, over 1,000,000 elements, and it's quite a big setup in here. We'll come back and look at it in a minute. Let's go back over to the other one. We have this one, which succeeded. Looks similar to the first one. What we didn't do over here is we didn't go back to the geometry area and break the wind tunnel apart. So let's break them apart into faces. And what we'll do is we'll take a look at each face. Okay, so as before, that's the inlet. This one will be a wall. This one will be another wall. This one is going to be the cylinder. This one will probably be another wall. I'm hitting the F2 and typing in wall, so this will be another wall, F2, wall. And then finally, this has got to be the exit, and it is, so let's type in exit. Now, if we go back to the meshing area, take the hypothesis, edit it, and you'll see the local size right there. I'll go back to cylinder, and instead of doing an overkill on this, let's just do 5. Now we'll run back over here and we'll recalculate the mesh. We'll be able to watch it calculate things over here. Let's run back to our old one and see if we can get a better handle on the mesh itself. However, let's run back because we ended up with it. We only ended up with 100,000 elements here. So we really didn't refine down that close around the edges. But we can go back in and edit the hypothesis, enter the local size, and drop it down to like 3, let's say. Let's remesh it, take a look at it. I'm back over at the other one, and this is it is not moving all that quickly, so I'm trying to rotate it, and you can see that it is quite Let's do a clipping on it. It is quite refined around the cylinder, and it has trouble calculating and clipping things and stuff. And as you can see, as I get closer and closer to the cylinder, it has a lot of elements stacked on the cylinder. So I would expect to get a fairly decent solution, but even though the first point away from the cylinder is quite a bit of distance, so that leads us to conclude that, this is 1,000,000 elements here, and we may be able to get a decent solution, but we need more. There are luckily a couple of ways of even getting more, and since I'm doing this in 2 versions of Sloan at the same time, here we'll run back over to the other one. I ended up with a few more, but not that much more, so I'm going to just push this one to the limit, and I'm going to run the local size down to 1, and let's see what I get over here. So it's running this, and we'll pop back at it. I'll pause the video and pop back at it a second or so from now. Okay, so what we get in this is the same thing we had before. Too many elements, 1,000,000. And if you want to see it, unfortunately, it takes some time. Okay, so here is the, here, let's take a look at it from a particular perspective. Wrong side, wrong perspective. How about this one? No, how about, there we go. So what you see is a very similar thing. Very fine mesh around the surface. Very fine mesh on the surface of the cylinder. But there are other solutions that may give the first point off of the cylinder closer to it. We're going to investigate those, but what we've seen here is ways in which we can go in and we can edit the hypothesis, look at the local size, and what this will give us is the ability to pick any surface or edge or a vertex and put the local size on that. So with that, I'm going to just say study, save this as, we're going to create a new one and call it cylinder. Just go in and dump it in there. I'll come back, but boundary conditions and everything on it later. I'm going to go in the newer edition and do the same thing. Go in and save as. I'm going to create cylinder. I'll save it in there. And so this gives you a comparison from the new to the old and back again. One thing I didn't do over here is I didn't clip the thing here. Let me come back away. Let me do a clipping. May take a minute to do the clipping. It clipped the reverse side of it, but that's okay. And what you see in the inside volume of this grid, you see a very refined edge here. But even though, if you really look at it, the first node is quite a distance away from the node on the cylinder, so I need those to be closer to pick up separation points and all sorts of extra information. So I'm going to come back and deal with two other ways of doing this in the next video. However, I'm probably going to just stick to one of the two versions of Sloan. Since the CAE Linux version is the oldest, I may just use it.